When someone mentions dinosaurs, for the majority of people, their immediate connection to that word is a tyrannosaurus. T-Rex is for many reasons the most popular dinosaur in history, in both the paleontological scene and mass media. Mega theropods inspire the minds of many people, especially children. Carnivores are cool, we can all agree with that, even herbivore advocates like myself. With that in mind, it's not a surprise that carnivores in video games, especially animal survival ones, are more preferable than the alternative, especially if the game leans to a younger audience. However, there are cases where this situation is not mere public preference. Sometimes during game development, some of its aspects can directly or indirectly be benefited and cause unbalances. Many of us saw many times in competitive genres where a character, item, or mechanic got overly buffed and then a flood of players start to abuse it. But what if I told you that we have been experiencing that in the Isle for years? What if I told you that carnivores are not only preferred by the community, but also by the developers? I would say that this is not a big issue yet. However, even discussing small issues and annoyances the game possess, if done respectively and constructively, can inspire change in the game for the better, and also because I don't have any ideas. So I, the defender of the plant eaters, accuse the Isle for carnivore bias. And I do have the receipts. Favoritism is a natural human tendency. Many times our subjective preference affects our judgment on multiple levels. Game development is no exempt of this, and sometimes developers let biased points of view carved in the game's philosophy and mechanics. In the Isle you can see such bias in the carnivorous fauna available for the players on multiple levels. For one, there are just more of them. Disregarding real-life ecosystem comparisons, the balance of carnivore/herbivore ratio in the roster alone already leans to the carnivore side. In Legacy there are 12 herbivores and 14 carnivores, which despite not being much of a difference, is a complementary factor that contributes to the discrepancy between carnivore and herbivore population. In Evrima the ratio is reversed however, with 4 carnivores and 5 herbivores, but the amount of options we have in the game are not the only important factor. The type of options we have also have a role in this. Let's start with Evrima since it's a smaller sample. For herbivores we have 3 small tier, 1 mid tier, and Ipsy. For carnivores we have a scav, a small tier, a mid tier, and an apex. If we analyze the numbers alone, this sounds pretty balanced, but the reality is very different. Most people agree that Carnotaurus pretty much dominates the entire game. Small tier herbivores have next to no chance in either defeating or even escaping Carnos with their insane speed and maneuverability. Not only that, their damage and constitution makes them a deadly opponent to Stegos and Dinos alike, the 2 other top tier dinosaurs at the moment. And saying that you killed a Carno once as a Dryo doesn't refute my argument. It's irrelevant how specific individuals utilize their favorite dinosaurs more efficiently than others. The overabundance of Carno players showed that there are heavy tendency in choosing that specific dinosaur, and Carno's population is lower than Utah's population in Legacy, so the reverse happening in Evrima shows that this is not due to a subjective preference, but due to the Carnotaurus' mechanical advantage over the majority of the roster. Legacy has a more extreme example with T-Rex. Its ridiculous overtuned stats overshadow every single other dinosaur. Obviously you can argue that it's a Rex, the most popular dinosaur in history. And like I mentioned previously, yes, it's a factor. But when 60 out of 125 people are playing the same animal despite having 28 options to choose from, it is clear that there's a major factor drawing the community to this specific character. And the issue goes deeper than just raw numbers and strength. Carnivores overall not only share more mechanics with each other in comparison to herbivores, they also possess more mechanics at their disposal. Bleed in both Legacy and Evrima is a very well established and important component of the game's combat. Its effects and impact during confrontation are more severe and long-lasting than similar mechanics like fracture or bone break. In Legacy, only a fourth of the herbivore roster, 3 out of 12, are capable of dealing bleed damage. In contrast, all 14 carnivores have bleed in their arsenal. As a consequence, matchups where either party should be in a equal footing stat-wise, the bleed mechanic heavily turns the tide of the battle towards the predator, giving them the edge simply due to additional mechanics their opponents don't possess. In isolated cases, that's completely fine. Bleed is a mechanic to be utilized and should be a specialty of a selected few species. The issue is that bleed is a default mechanic present in all carnivores, and even if some dinosaurs deal less bleed than others, the fact that one side of the spectrum has a guaranteed extra set of abilities influences the player's decision when choosing their character. And bleed isn't the only mechanic where this happens. Mechanics like scent are also targeted against herbivores. Sure, herbies also use scent in search of food and water, but carnivores can also use it to track prey. Same thing with Legacy Bone Break, which is also exclusive to a carnivore. Fortunately, in Evrima things are more toned down with the presence of wallowing to counter scent, fracture is more well distributed and a better version of Bone Break overall, and bleed is reworked and not as predominant across the entire roster. Even though the mechanic itself is kinda meh, and as a carn you can now just literally track targets, not just follow someone's footprints. Despite things getting better with the new branch, this issue is not completely gone, and as time goes on and more dinosaurs and mechanics are introduced, we can only hope that this small problem doesn't blow out of proportion. Sorry for the short video, guys. This week has been a very busy one, but next week we have a sweet concept art to analyze, so stick around for that. I would also like to welcome all new subscribers that have joined our little community over the past few weeks. I truly appreciate you all giving my channel a go, and I hope you have enjoyed the content so far. A huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for supporting the channel and keeping it ready. If you wanna join the ranks, the link will be in the description. Join our Discord for memes and paleo nerd stuff, and I hope to see you all next week.